But before I get to all of that, I'd like to give you a brief history of how it happened for me to be a steersperson. Most of the time, what happens when you become a steersperson is because a coach says, "I need a steersperson," and you may have maybe your first, second year, and they need someone, and you're put in that position. Well, that didn't happen with me. I paddled for 6 years in seat 1, never went past seat 2 before I became a steersperson. And the way it happened, in 1988, the championship in Monterey, we lost by 2 seconds.
2 seconds?
2 seconds to a Hawaiian racer. We were all racing Molias at that time, and Hawaiian Huiva, yes, by 2 seconds in a 2,000-meter race. So I kind of blamed the steersperson. And which was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. And years later, I realized that I did a terrible thing. So that changed. Actually, that changed the steersperson's whole career as far as paddling, and it changed mine. I decided I needed to be in that position, to be in control of the boat, and in control of the race, whatever race, be sprints or long distance. So I went from stroking to steers in 1 season. I changed next season. I said in '89 that I'm steering. And what my mentality was with steering was I took from what I saw in the front of the boat to the back of the boat. So when I was stroking, I was zoned, and you couldn't change the force. If I said I'm going to go to that Mount Buoy, you better put me on that Mount Buoy the whole time. I don't want to see Santa Cruz or the shoreline or whatever. You have to keep me on. And so when I took over as a steersperson, I had that stroker's mentality where I needed to be focused on something and I needed to go there. And so that's how I steer.
And how many years ago was that?
89.
Yeah, figure it out. I'm not throwing you a number. Come on.
You were 14.
Oh,
Not quite.
that'd be 25 years.
Did you have any prior water experience that you were going?
Oh, yeah. So let's start with tools of the trade, steering blades. I mean, there's a lot of different paddles out there. It's like buying a car. You know, there's so many different models and shapes and sizes. And I think it all boils down as to preference of what you, I mean, I prefer all wood paddles. You know, and now they got the hybrid paddles, so you got like the Kilo, they got the 40 blade, so-so blade, and whatever blades. And I use them, you know, in fact, Molokai this year I used a 40 blade, I think it was. I think the one I was using. Is
Yeah, 40.
Yeah, okay. So I use that, and it's a good blade. It's solid, you know, it's really strong, and when you do, you know, conditions, where there would be conditions out here. I know Monterey can give you conditions. San Francisco Bay can give you conditions. You want a paddle that can control the canoe, you know. And most of it is going to be heavy, so you got to be able to paddle with a heavier paddle. You know, it's beefed up so that because it needs to be strong. I mean, because you're controlling a 40-pound canoe plus the weight of the people in the boat. So it takes. I mean, it should be a strong paddle. 5-7 degree paddle, that's probably standard. And how do you find, you know, really just straight blade, except for, I mean, when you're doing canoe surfing, makaha, 4-man or something like that, straight big blade. But yeah, I mean, there's so many paddles on the market. In fact, I have some paddles here that, I'll show you. All right, I'll show you the first one.
Oh, pretty. Beautiful.
Never used. And I will never use this now.
Yeah.
I mean, I got it, I like it, but it's too pretty, I don't know how to write it. And I actually don't like it that much. So,
Yes, you do. You're just not going to use it.
this paddle This paddle came out in the 90s. It's there's some balsa wood in it. I mean, but it's pretty stiff in here. Don't touch. I mean, you know, it's got some carbon inside there. So it's a strong paddle. You know, it's got glass on it to supports it. But yeah, and actually, this paddle used to be a little bit tall. I cut it down. By the way, I cut all my paddles down. I used to paddle with a 56. Yeah. 56. It's unheard of now. Nobody paddles with a 56, which is nobody wants to paddle with a 56. Now the longest paddle I go with is a 51. So this is the one I use today, and this is the pulley right there. So pretty much a lot of guys are using this, ladies and guys are using this paddle, and it's a good paddle. You know, it controls the canoe, and that's what you want. You know, and it's durable, it's strong. I'm not too keen on the back thing, but it comes with a damn paddle. You know, I don't like this because I mean, it you know, you're constantly hitting the side of the canoe and scraping. I mean, guys who work on the canoe don't like these paddles.
Scuff.
Yeah, they scuffs up the boat, and I don't work on the canoe anymore, so. When you're out there, what's really important is your line. Finding your line when you're in the water. I mean, and your lines will change. I mean, if you go out on the bay here, the lines will change. I mean, like today, we changed, how many times we changed the lines? About at least four or five times.
At least.
Now, I mean, so if your objective is to follow the right line, the same line all the time, know where the line is, stay in your line. I tell people that in your correction of the line is you always got center. You bring the canoe back to center. I give no more than 5 degrees on either side. Sometimes I'll straighten up, you know, you can straighten up a little bit, that's okay. But if you stay within that 5 degrees either side of left or right or center, you'll find that the boat will run a little bit better and you not have to work so much. What happens when you let it go more to the right or more to the left is you got to overcompensate to bring the boat back to center. Okay? And some of us get involved, they want to paddle more. You know, because, well, I got to paddle, I got to help out my crew, I got to paddle more. And sometimes that's not the best thing. And that's what you want to do, but sometimes that's not the best thing. Because if your boat is out of control, then it doesn't matter if you're paddling, right?
Right.
So the first thing you got to remember when you're steering is control the canoe. Okay? Control the canoe. And how are you going to do that? You're going to poke. Okay? And there's different degrees of poking. I tend to tell people to poke light and out. You poke and often and early. Okay? So you're going to anticipate the boat, and the boat's going to move. She moves all the time. If you just go in the water and you take crew out and you don't touch the water at all, you just let it go, what's going to happen?
You're going to go in circles.
The boat is just going to So, your job as a steers person is to correct that poke. Okay? And the reason to correct it is you're going to poke. And if you do that early, you don't know, I mean, you know, I push poking first before you paddle. Because I want you to be in control of the canoe. Once you're in control of the canoe, you can do whatever you want. Okay? I'm a paddle steers person. I want to paddle as much as I can. But I will not stray away from poking to get that control of the boat. That's more important to me than me trying to paddle as much as I can. If I'm not, like I told Bob, I said, what's your best paddle stroke? You know, you got the pry, you got the draw, you got this and that and all that. I said, your best paddle stroke is a forward stroke. When you're paddling, so the canoe is going forward.
Right.
So all you're doing is paddling like if you were seating from seat 1 to seat 5. So you're just paddling. That's your forward stroke, right? Because once you do all of this stuff, that's not your forward stroke. That's your correction stroke. When I paddle steer, I do mostly forward stroke, and then I anticipate the canoe's going to move. I just take the paddle out here like this and bam, and I'm back to my forward. So if you can do that constantly, You can paddle as much as you want without hooking. But it takes a lot to get to that point when you can control the canoe. Just one rotation here and boom, and come back. Okay? So when you get to there, then you'll find, it's exciting when you get to that point, when you can paddle as much as you want. But never stray away from controlling the canoe with the hook. Because that's what's going to control your canoe. Now remember, you're not only a paddler in the boat, you're a rudder. And some guys, I remember our coach telling some steers person, look, you're just a rudder. Just be a rudder. Just steer the canoe. I don't want you paddling. What? Well, for instance, if you were out there and your steersman is all over the creation because they're trying to paddle, what good is that? So the coach sees that and says, look, you're just a rudder. Just be a rudder. Keep the boat going straight. That's the best you can do for that crew. Because if you strain all over, it's the hardest thing for the crew. I don't know, I mean, if you've been in number one and your steers person is all over the creation, it's hard.
Yeah. Can't get
Mentally,
around.
it's harder. Physically, it's harder. You know, and you don't want to be in that situation as a steers person where your crew is like, you're putting your crew through all of this, where they're having a tough time doing this, you know. I always like to make it as easy as possible for myself, and I think I mentioned that today.
Yes.
You know, make it as easy as you can, and the only way you can do that is is your crew helping you out. Whether you need number 5 to help you out or you need number 1, I mean, I can steer for number 1 if I have to, and I've done it in races just because I see something and I want to do it. And I just I'm going and boom, I do something to get the boat in a different direction. Maybe the kid's a bump or something like that. I would steer for number 1. Not advisable. Don't do that. It pisses off the
That's the way you're talking about
Don't do it. Don't do it. And speaking of number 5, okay, I'm not ashamed to ask for help in the boat, and you shouldn't be as a steers person. You should get all the help you can, from the front of the boat to the back of the boat. And a lot of times I rely on number 5. And when you rely on number 5 needs to know a little bit about steering also, but not so much that they control the boat. I am a bad number 5. I'll tell you right now. I'm a bad.
You want to
number
steer,
5.
huh?
I'm a bad number 5 unless number 6 and I are in 2. I was just speaking to Bob about that. When I paddle with Al Ching, who is Danny Ching's dad, he and I paddle with Monterey all the time, and we do Leo Kalani. What we do is we feed off of each other. So I'm paddle steering in 5 while he's paddle steering in 6, so that we don't have to poke. And that's just this, and we cross over anytime we feel like. I mean, if I feel like I gotta be here, I gotta be here. I'm only a paddle lead over there, and I just switch over, and it's back. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. But if you're in tune with your number 5, and you can work together, it's effective. The channel, Molokai channel, is very effective to help number 5. A lot of times I do. Actually, when I do the channel, I don't normally steer the channel.
Stroke.
I normally stroke or sit in 5. Except for last year I did. I steered pretty much the whole race. But I prefer to stroke than the steering. Only because it's a lot easier.
Except for getting in the canoe.
Yeah, except for getting into number 1. That's the hardest seat to get in. But I mean, steering in conditions is hard on your body. Whether you're out here in Monterey when it's really cooking or in San Francisco Bay. I mean, your body takes a beat. I mean, you just you're back there and you're tossed all over the place, and it kind of hurts. So, I mean, if you're in number 1 or anywhere from 1 to 5, I mean, it's a lot easier to be in a paddle seat than being in a 6. So if I can stroke, I will stroke instead of steering. But that's bad too. Because if you're not happy as a stooge person, as a stooge person, and you're stoking and now you're constantly telling your stooge person, not good. But I mean, I've done it, and it can work. I mean, as long as you're in communication with you guys. I mean, you got a tight deal with you guys, and they know where your head is at, and so they react with you. Then it can work. Otherwise, if someone's back there that doesn't, you're not in sync with each other, it could be a disaster. So get help from. I mean, in any situation, like coming into the beach, especially you guys got to come in. Sometimes you guys got to come into surf. Ask the crew for help. Don't be afraid to ask the crew for help. And bring it in safely.